Hello, my name is Denton-Cardew. I'm standing as the Liberal Democrat candidate in Glasgow South West, which is the southwestmost constituency in Glasgow.
Brilliant, thank you for joining us today. So how did you get involved with the Lib Dems?
I got involved with the Liberal Democrats sort of several years ago in Suffolk, where I'm from, where there was a lovely lady called Wendy Marchant, who, as soon as I joined the party, gave me a ring and said, "Oh, you know, you ought to come along and help to a meeting." So I came along to this one meeting, and immediately I was bombarded with all these sort of things. And within 2 or 3 weeks, I became the youth representative for the Liberal Democrats in Mid Suffolk, which was a lot of work. So I've been turning grey since then.
Brilliant. So what made you decide to stand for Govan South West?
Well, I live in the constituency, and I asked to do it because I think it's very important that we have a good MP there. I'm one of only 4 candidates total standing. There's a Labour, a Conservative and an SNP also, so I stand a very good chance of getting a good amount of the vote. It's a constituency where we've always done quite well in. We did really well in 2005, and I think that with the time that I've got now to leaflet the area, I could actually improve on that vote.
Great. So what are you offering that the other candidates aren't, and why should people vote for you in particular?
Well, this election is being fought on national issues. You've got, in my constituency, the SNP, who want to give people a vote again on independence, but not on the final deal of the European Union. You have the Conservative Party, which just wants to leave the European Union without having a final say. And you have the Labour Party, which nobody really knows what they stand for. I mean, is their manifesto really what they think? We don't know yet. So we'll see. And the Liberal Democrats, and especially me, we're offering a real choice where we want to have a final say on the deal of Brexit, and we want to keep the United Kingdom together as of the result of the 2014 referendum, as that result was far more clear than the one that was in June of 2015. So I think it's very important that we do that. 2016, sorry, isn't it?
Great. So if you get the position, how will you continue at university?
Well, I mean, Mari Black was the MP for Paisley and Renfrewshire South, which is a constituency just south of mine, while she was at university. And if she can do it, so can I. I don't think she'd be adverse to giving me some tips as to how to carry that on. It is extremely unlikely that I will win. However, if I do, then I will, fully dedicate myself to both, university and being a member of Parliament.
Great. So is your party the right one for students in particular, and why?
I think absolutely so. We're the only party that's committed to save Erasmus. The Labour Party, nobody knows. The Conservative Party have said definitely no. And we've also guaranteed the rights of EU students in this country, because we do definitely want to have close ties with the European Union. And even if we're not a member of the European Union, we want to have good relationships with them and make sure that the people who are living here at the moment, especially students, have the right to stay and work and study here.
Great. So obviously you've probably seen a lot of this. Your party leader has been, or the UK party leader has been quite evasive on his views over homosexuality and whether or not it's a sin according to his Christian beliefs. What's your stance on that?
Well, he hasn't actually been evasive for a while. I mean, he's not the Pope and he's not a priest. So what he is, however, a Christian, and he didn't want to ostracise the members of his church by saying yes or no to whatever is a sin, because I think it's quite subjective. He clarified his own views and said that both gay marriage and gay sex are not sins, but it did take one. That's why people thought he was ambiguous. However, his voting record tells a different story. His voting record says that he's voted strongly for gay marriage all the time. The one time he was absent, and people pick up on that, is because when he was ill, and I think MPs are allowed to be ill once in a while. And so I think ultimately we are the party that has the best record on voting for rights of homosexual couples and homosexuals in general by percentage of our MPs that voted for and against. So ultimately I think those people who are concerned about this issue should vote for us, safe in the knowledge that we do respect and agree with that homosexuals should be allowed to marry and should be have the same rights as everyone else.
Okay, but do you not think that the student population might feel a bit uneasy about voting for someone who's been so kind of evasive over it in the past, like seeing as we've got quite a higher percentage of LGBTQ students?
Yes, I think people, they would have a right to their concern there, but I would say to them, judge Tim Farron on his voting record and judge the Liberal Democrats on their voting record, and not what the media are trying to take us down with at the end of the day. Because, ultimately Tim Farron does not get to decide what is and isn't a sin. If you believe in the Bible and you believe everything that's in the Bible, then you would maybe believe that homosexuality is a sin, but it's subjective. Tim Farron says he does not believe homosexuality is a sin, but I think he probably didn't want to say that because his constituency is a very high Christian vote. There's lots of evangelical Christians in there, and he didn't want to say, I'm saying that this isn't a sin, and I'm saying that your religion is wrong, because it would be wrong for me to go and say to someone who's a Buddhist, for example, that something they believe is wrong, or a Muslim that they believe is a sin or isn't a sin, because it's just not up to me or anyone else to decide what other people believe.
Okay.
So in terms of, you obviously mentioned the policy for EU students and why that would be appealing. What would you say the LibDems offer to other students who are maybe from Scotland or England or live at home, different types of students?
Well, I mean, with the saving of Erasmus specifically, we offer the chance for students to go abroad. We want to offer that chance so that people can have a gap year from their university studies, and we want to make sure that that opportunity does not close, because at the moment it looks like the door is closing, and we are the only party fighting for that. As well as that, and aside from the European issue on things, we have by far the best record on making sure that students have the same opportunities in the UK. We funded different placements. For example, in 2010 we were in government, where students could go to companies they would otherwise never be offered an opportunity of going to and working in these companies, and that's often led to jobs that they've got in the end. So I think we've got a really great record on that, and we are fighting to protect that.
In terms of the Labour's recent announcement that they intend to do away with tuition fees for all students, and given that Lib Dems famously promised to do away with tuition fees and then backtracked on that, do you think that Labour stand a better chance of winning the student vote with their promises?
No, I mean, polls are subjective, and polls are sort of not always believed, as we've seen in Brexit and in the Donald Trump sort of epidemic that happened in the US. But Jeremy Corbyn is now further behind in terms of student polling of 18 to 24-year-olds by 20% than Theresa May. If that's not saying something, I don't know what is, because we now live in an age of presidentialism where students now are also thinking about who do I want as Prime Minister, and I think people are looking at Jeremy Corbyn and I think they're thinking he's just not up to it. And what he says, and I'm sure he's got great intentions there that many students may believe in, but actually he's just not up to the job, and he won't be able to push through his own policies, because if he wasn't able to read out his campaign launch to launch his staying in the European Union without reading from a script, then I don't think he's capable, to be honest with you, of scrapping tuition fees.
In terms of Govan, what do you believe that the special issues in Govan are?
Yeah, so I did a lot of campaigning for Govan in the council elections, where I quadrupled the vote but wasn't successful. I campaigned specifically on cleansing issues. We have the worst cleansing issue in Glasgow is Govan. People litter there all the time, and people also let their dogs foul all the time. What I really want to do is introduce plastic bags on the outskirts of parks, on the fence posts, so that we can actually say there's no excuse for you to let your dogs foul here. There are bags provided, absolutely free. This has been a great success in places like Sheffield and Manchester, where it's been implemented before, and the fouling there of dogs, etc., has gone down significantly and is non-existent. And I think we just need to encourage people to take pride in their community. I mean, personally, if someone does dog foul, I think the penalty should be much higher. Because at the moment there are kids I see running around in the streets, and they're getting it on their shoes and they're getting it on them, and it's awful, and it's making them ill, and it's absolutely wrong that people are allowing this to happen.
Do you think there are a large number of students living in Govan, or do you think that that's kind of the exception?
Well, actually, I started this campaign thinking, no, there wasn't, but I've knocked on a lot of doors, and I've found that there are a lot of students, not just at the University of Glasgow. I mean, there are lots at the University of Glasgow, but there are actually lots at Caledonian, Strathclyde, and the University of West of Scotland, and even one person I came across who's studying at the University of Edinburgh. So there is actually a reasonably high student population, perhaps not as much as Glasgow Central or Glasgow North, but a reasonably large proportion.
Okay, great. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.